Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everyone, and welcome along to Season 19 of Apex Online Racing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back after a month absence to a brand new season, the 19th of AOR's history on the Formula 1 game franchise. The past few weeks have been full of excitement and anticipation for the brand new season. Drivers and coordinators alike keeping themselves very much occupied throughout the break, while the rest of us have been playing the patient waiting game. And I'd be lying if I said I haven't been counting down the days until the first round of the season. And as if by magic, it's here. Spring has quite frankly flown by, just like the real life F1 break. But unlike in real life, we're not kicking off in Australia tonight. As you can tell by not just the title of the live stream, but also the lovely cinematics on screen provided to us by Mr. Gaming Alamonda. So we do thank you, Mark, for the efforts for this pre-race intro, and hopefully many more to come throughout the season. We're here at Bahrain for the first round of a 12-race season, a dozen races featuring arguably the best tracks on the F1 2019 calendar in a weird and wacky assortment. But we'll get to that and a whole lot more a little later on. Of course, is a split one grid on the PC platform, meaning we have some of the quickest drivers on show tonight throughout the season, of varying age, nationality, but they all share the same ambition and goal of winning the Drivers' Championship come the end of the season. But before we introduce them, I think it would be wrong to not introduce not only myself, but also who will be accompanying me inside the commentary box for this season. My name is, of course, James Costello, and I will be one of your commentators throughout this season. And once again, joining me in the commentary box, the famous duo, we just are magnetised together. We just come as a package deal. We're a partner in crime. Gents, welcome. It's been far too long since I've said that. It's been over a month, but finally the day is here. A brand new season. Brand new expectations, a full grid, we should mention, for the first round of the season, which is brilliant to see. I can't wait to see how this season unfolds.
No, me neither, and I think let's just get straight into the qualifying and go live with the drivers. Of course, we've waited a long time, so why wait any longer? We see some of the drivers already out on track, actually almost all of them, so that is great to see. Let's hop on board with last season's second place. It is of course Hypers who did so well throughout the season but just couldn't snatch it in the end. He's currently coming down the straight for, well, his first flying lap of the season, and these drivers, they've had a while to practice, so I think that we may see some quick times this evening as we see some yellow flags up ahead. That's of course not what you want to see ever in this sport, but these drivers are quick, and we're of course hoping to see some close racing throughout the season, and I think we will.
Yeah, of course, in this 20-man grid we have familiar faces, obviously a few drivers that were in Tier 1 last season. Of course, Hypers is the most notorious name, obviously coming second in last season's championship. Some promoted, some changing consoles, and some completely brand new drivers. So a few fresh faces. I have no idea who they are, so I'm very excited for the drivers I have never heard of. But also some drivers that have not really appeared in AOR before, but have a big big name towards himself. Obviously, one of them, I think, Bono Huis, is probably arguably the biggest name in this tier of drivers. Obviously, the Vegas E-Race winner back in 2017, I think, and of course McLaren Shadow esports driver. He is now currently third in the provisional qualifying standings, but qualifying doesn't really matter at this point. I think it's just we need to just get used to all the drivers. We might as well go through all the teams. I mean, I guess since it was second in the championship, it'd be unfair not to start off with his team. Obviously, he is now switched from the Williams to the Alfa Romeo, obviously occupied by former Danny, who unfortunately, as with Jarno, are not able to make this season, taking a bit of a break, potentially for season 20. Yeah, we're getting into the 20s next season on the F1 2020 game, so that'll be a lot to look forward to. Hypers is alongside Mr. Anchor for the Alfa Romeo duo, and they should be looking for a decent season. Obviously, both F1 representatives last season. Moving on to another red car, we should probably mention Ferrari, Leopard, and Photon. Again, both veterans of the F1 tier, very quick drivers, of course. They should be contending for some very decent positions. I guess we will move over to Williams probably, because they're 1 and 2 at the moment in the provisional qualifying. Speed Bari, of course. Obviously, we have come to know him in the past, the last few races of last season. And Michael, obviously, the season 16 AOR PS4 champion, occupying the second Williams seat. So they're looking really good. Jens, want to take another team away?
Yes, let's have a look at the Racing Point. We have Matthias here, who is actually one of the reserve drivers for this tier this season. Unfortunately, the normal runner for the other Force India or Racing Point. Wow, that's a long time since I've made that mistake. Of course, the Racing Point. Of course, he could unfortunately not be here tonight. The other driver in it here is Sones, who's currently down in 17th. Of course, the normal runner to Sones is Cardanoff. Unfortunately, he could not be here tonight. What else do we need to cover? We need to cover the Renaults, of course, as well. We have Brownie here down in 15th, and he'll be running alongside Nicholas, who's currently up in 11th place, just getting jumped by Matthias there. Right, so I was about to jump up to him.
Yeah, one thing to mention about Nicholas, or Crow, as I'm probably going to call him, is he is now a Renault Esports Vitality driver. He got signed up after leaving Red Bull, but he's been snapped up by the yellow and black team, and yeah, that's a very promising signing, esports related. And obviously now I get a chance to use the yellow and black car in AOR and show how quick he can be. Obviously the season's 15 PCF3 champion. He's come a long way since then, and I'm really looking forward to see how he goes in this season. Any other teams we haven't covered? We haven't really covered Mercedes. Obviously in real life, obviously dominant. Not so much in AOR PCF1, and it doesn't look like to be the case so far. We do have Chris, or it was Christian Hausman, I think his second name was, back in season 18, and Williams Jim Roy, also known as Deagle Killer. That's a long nickname from a long time ago. Obviously a Williams driver in a Mercedes. Unfortunately, couldn't take the Williams seat. Obviously, he wasn't high enough in the priority order. Now, obviously, that is determining of all the drivers' seats for this season, but they are in 9th and 10th at the moment, in a sandwich between the two Red Bulls of Infamous and Camille Camon, the latter of which was the season 18 PCF3 champion. So it's nice to see some champion of some sort make his way all the way up into F1, a much more competitive tier than he would have obviously experienced in F3. And right now he's not doing too bad for himself. Any other teams we haven't covered?
I think that's all of them. Maybe anyone in chat can mention
Oh
who
no, I don't think we mentioned Haas.
Oh, yes, that's right. Currently up in 5th place, we have Gianfranco, who will be partnering up with the coordinator for this league, Jan Fehler. He is down in 17th currently. Any other?
Toro Rosso we haven't
Oh,
mentioned.
yes, that is also right. Kruzik's up in 14th currently, and his teammate for this season, Andinator, is currently in 16th. They are making a nice sandwich with a Ferrari filling with Leopard in the middle.
Right, so I think that's all of the teams covered. Obviously, there's one reserve in for tonight's race, Matthias, filling in for Cardinal. So 19 of the official registered drivers are here tonight, which is great to see. And we still have 2 more in reserve. Of Alvaro, I can't remember his full gamer tag, but he is one of the reserves, and also Simon Weigang, who we know quite a lot about, being a Renault esports driver. I think he still is. I don't think he's left like Evo. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he's a reserve for this season. Obviously, both of them could not make it because the grid is so full, but I'm sure as the season progresses, they will definitely have a chance to race and maybe even get a full-time seat, but hopefully not, because we want to see a full grid for the rest of the season. Maybe I put my expectations too high, but it's great to see a full grid for once. I honestly don't remember the last time I commentated on a full 20-man grid, so it's very nice to see, and what a grid it is to commentate over, and what a race it promises to be. Obviously, now we'll get into the main focus of being in Bahrain. Obviously, the main focal point of the news regarding F1. Obviously, the coronavirus obviously infecting the Bahrain Grand Prix. Obviously, no spectators will be present in the real life events. Thankfully, in this event, we have 2 spectators only, me and Jens, obviously commentating this race. And I just really am looking forward to this. At the moment, it's a very, very tight grid in qualifying with 6 minutes to go. And we have still the 2 Williams running 1 and 2. Bono Hui still 3rd. Gianfranco in 4th, ahead of Presteda in the other McLaren. I'm just going to double check what I'm assuming they set their laps on the hards. Let me just double check. Yes. So everyone has set their PB on their hard compound tyres. The strategy for this race is a medium to hard, or vice versa. The tyre wear on this circuit is deadly, and the softs just deactivate way too quick for a driver's liking, and the pit lane being quite long here, meaning that 2-stop is definitely not an optimal strategy. Although the safety car, obviously the latest patch that came out just before last season ended, has inflictuated the chances of a VSC or safety car. So maybe drivers might risk a soft starting just to risk that, but it's the first race of the season. I think drivers will probably just play the safe game and just try and get to the end, build that confidence, especially for the new drivers that haven't been in a tier as competitive as this. But yeah, 5 minutes to go of this qualifying session. The whole 20 drivers are only separated by, well, including Zones, who hasn't really set a competitive lap time, just less than a second, which is, considering how long and how drastic this challenging track is, that's a very, very, very tight grid, and it should get even tighter when the medium tyres start coming in.
Yes, of course, and we are seeing some of the drivers, actually most of them, have fitted the medium tyres for their final run. Of course, that final run is always known as that final mad dash, coming out towards the end with minimal fuel and looking to put in the quickest lap time possible. That's of course most of the time where we find out who is the pole sitter, and with this close of a grid and with many drivers I've noticed constantly improving the best time for the middle sector, it is promising to be a fantastic end to this qualifying, and that will of course just line us up for a fantastically close race. As the Leopard pulling into the pits, most likely to put on a set of medium tyres. as we can see, some of the drivers are beginning to make their way out on those medium tyres. Actually, Camille is just starting his first lap on the medium tyres. I believe he's the first driver to do so. Actually, Sones is right in front of him, coming up to turn 4 now with the medium tyres fitted on. But as James mentioned just before, it is a medium to hard compound race, and it looks like all the drivers are looking for track position and not to go long and take a counter strategy.
Yeah, because starting outside the top 10 usually adds the benefit of fresh tyres, potentially doing an alternate strategy, but really I mean, you can start on the hards, but you're just going to plummet down, and by the time that the hards start being quicker than the mediums, I think it'll be a bit too late. So this is a sort of situation where track position is at utmost key in qualifying. Of course, the likes of Monaco, potentially Azerbaijan, Hungary, those sort of circuits where overtaking is very difficult. Track position, yes, is very key, but this is a different scenario where drivers want to be higher up on the grid as possible, because the fresh tyres don't really do much to add to the pace. As there goes Zed Owens, as you mentioned, the first driver to set their lap on the medium tyres, going from 20th to 1st and now to 2nd, as Camille has now jumped in. Michael's actually coming out of the final corner down towards the line, and he now retakes that provisional pole position. 1:26.5. That is a very competitive lap time from the Greek driver in his native Williams car, and I think that will be a very good contender for a very strong position. I don't think we'll dip into any sort of 25 region. I think a low 26 will be a very incredible lap time. But it's unlikely. But we say this all the time, gents, don't we? We think qualifying times are unlikely, but then we forget that we're commentating over the top split in AOR, and then drivers just perform magic and we get blown away. We shouldn't really be surprised at this point. But if someone does do a crazy lap time, as much as it'll be crazy, I don't think it'll surprise us. It won't surprise me. I learnt my lesson from last season to expect the best from these drivers, and Michael currently on provisional pole with a minute to go, so not a lot of time for drivers to get their laps in. A few of them obviously now coming to finish their laps and coming to start their laps. But yeah, Michael on provisional pole ahead of Jim Roy, who now improves to P2. Yeah, 40 seconds to go this session. The Mad Dash is inbound.
And we are seeing some of the drivers crossing the line to put in their lap times. As you can see, the split of times has quite obviously begun to grow bigger, as some of the drivers haven't put in their lap times yet. We are seeing some of the drivers here down in 16th with over 1.5 seconds up to the top spots, but that's of course just because they are out on their first lap on those medium tyres. As we can see, Speed Barry has decided to retire. He doesn't think he can get any more out of his tyres. Here we see Bono, who's down in 10th place, coming down to that tight left-hander, tricky braking, but manages not to lock up, something that many drivers are struggling with doing. Here we see the other Haas driver come across the line for 4th place there. Quick time there, but not quick enough. I believe that's Preshnell, yes, about to come across the line for his time. 3rd place. What about the Renaults? Which one of them is the first? That will be Crow coming through the final corner. Now he's on a flying lap. Opens the DRS. What time will he be able to produce? 2nd place. That is quick, but just not quick enough. And then we have Hypers putting in 4th place there. Then I think that was Bono coming across the line for 5th. Then we see further down which one of the drivers are about to cross the line. Of course, the track map is helping, but can be a bit challenging sometimes. Here we see Matthias down to 15th with Leopard just in front of him. What will they be able to produce? Leopard up into 10th and Matthias in 16th. Then we have the Red Bull of Infamous, 13th place, not quick enough to challenge for the top. Brownie across line. He will start no higher than 20th. Then Mr. Anchor, what will he be able to do? 17th place. Then we have Crew 6 goes into the pits. And who else do we need? And I think the final driver cross line, that was Photon, I believe. Yes, it was. That was just quick enough for 7th place, and that means that Michael will start on pole position for the first race of season 19 of AOR.
Well, I said it'd be competitive. I thought it could be toppled. I guess not. 26.5 is the pole position time. Nicholas Longue Chromatic, very, very good lap time to split the two Williams, who look so competitive. I know these two have worked together in the past, but they look on form. I don't know if Bahrain is just their go-to track or what, but if this form continues throughout the season, Williams look very good contenders for the Constructors' Championship. But yeah, Williams, Renault, Williams and Hypers, not a bad shout, not a bad way to start his new season. Bono Huis obviously in P5 alongside his McLaren teammate Presnator. Photon in the first Ferrari alongside Gianfranco. Jim Roy in 9th, and then Leopard rounding out the top 10 on the mediums, of course. Like every other driver set their lap time on the medium tyres. And we're going to assume it's a dry race. Wow. It's dry, gents. Wow. Very, very, very surprising of that. So, no wet weather, unsurprisingly. If you didn't tell, that was sarcasm. Because we never see rain in Bahrain. If it's a drizzle, it just gets evaporized because of the heat. Like we saw in Abu Dhabi a few seasons ago. But yeah, 20 driver grid for this 29 lap race, I'm pretty sure. And again, a medium to hard strategy for pretty much all the drivers, apart from the drivers who might fancy taking a risk. And the drivers at the back, well, they might have nothing to lose. Being the first race of the season. For example, Brownie starting plumb last, which sounds bad, but he was only, he wasn't that far off decent, like a 10th or possibly. So, yeah, this grid being so tight that one little mistake on a qualifying lap could send you from a potential top 5 to near the rear of the field. But enough about qualifying, because the formation lap is finally on the way for the first round of the season. Tyre changes. Wow, the entire grid outside the top 10 are on the hard compound tyres. I did not expect every single one of them. I thought maybe a few would risk it, but no. The top 10 on mediums, the bottom 10 are on the hard compound tyre. This is going to be interesting, because we might have a race of, I would say a race of two halves, but a race of two half of dry. I don't know how to describe it, but we're going to see the top 10, hopefully for them, pull away and have their own race, and the bottom 10 have the race of their own on the hard combat tyres, because they are about 7-8 seconds slower per lap. But yeah, I'm very surprised at the decisions from every single one of the drivers. Again, I am a commentator and not a driver, so if I am surprised, it's probably because I'm a noob at racing, and I'm not really sure on the tyres. So unfortunately, that's not me or Jens' strong points. That hence why we are in the commentary box and not sat racing. But yeah, Jens, final thoughts for this race. It should be exciting. Bahrain, of course, has many classics in real life and in AOR, and I see no different tonight.
No, me neither. And looking at the tyres, it's going to be a great race to see if the hard runners can get anything good out of this, and what the medium runners will do, and if anyone will come round with a funny strategy of a soft tyre anywhere. But let's see. It is all up for grabs for the first race of season 19.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up the seatbelts. We're in for the long haul. 12 races of this AOR Season 19. Drivers, good luck to every single one of you. I hope you all give me and Jen's excuses to not have any voices at the end of Sunday nights as we are underway for Season 19. And it's a brilliant start from Michael. He has completely jumped Chromatic in towards turn 1. Chromatic actually having to defend from the other Williams of Speed Bari through turn 1 and 2. And I think he just about manages to hang on to that second place. But now they drag wheel to wheel, the Renault and the Williams. As a monster battle in the background, but I'm more focused on the battle for second place as Crow just about hangs on to the challenge from Speed. Look at the battle at the back. There's about 4 or 5 wide. I think there's a racing point gone off there yet. Zed Owens has actually gone off in the middle sector there. I don't think he's accumulated any damage. He's got a tap from the rear. He actually nearly spins coming back onto the track, so his race has gone a table for the worst. Andernator is a spun.
Oh yes, he has. I saw it just in the background. Wasn't quite sure if it was a spin or what, but it is a ginormous battle here in the low end of the midfield. Great to see. And now it's Matthias and Infamous, or actually Cruzik going side by side. Infamous is just up ahead there, has managed to build a bit of a gap just after all of this battling, and Mr. Anchor just sitting back here looking at this amazing battle. But great to see so many drivers just going side by side, and this is just proving that even though these drivers are far down the field, they will still battle for everything that's left.
Lap 1 ends, and Michael leads by about, well, the time boards, excuse the time boards, everyone on stream, they do like to mess with us for the first few laps. They usually do settle in around about lap 3 when DRS does get enabled. What the positions you see on the left-hand side of the screen are correct. The gaps, unfortunately, aren't at this current time. But there's a battle going on for P10. Jan Thaler and Leopard going wheel to wheel. And I think the German has, actually both German, I should say. I didn't even realise that, but Leopard actually outmuscles his fellow compatriots and keeps hold of that P10 where he started. I'm looking at the position changes, gents, and I'm looking at Gianfranco. He's lost 9 positions at the start. I'm not sure what happened to him. I think he's got a bit of wing damage on his left front end plate. I'm just trying to investigate.
No, that is
must
definitely
have been caused
damage.
Yeah, so he's had a shocker of a start, wing damage, and well outside the point. He's dropping further and further back. So his race has gone awful for one of the Hasses, as we saw the other Haas going wheel to wheel on the second lap. But I think he is probably the only driver at the moment who is currently without pitting or with damage. Chris and Andernator have both come into the pits for unscheduled early stops, so that is not ideal for them. As lap 3 now begins, and look at the battle for P1, Jens. Nick Crow getting very close to Michael, but unfortunately DRS was enabled. The detection point was before the start of the third lap, so he won't get DRS through turn 1 and 2. But I think he will. Yeah, he'll get DRS down towards turn 4. It's his option to make a move or not. And no, he settles back for the time being. He just is happy to stay behind the Williams driver for the time being, save a bit of ERS and fuel potentially. And well, yeah, we're only in lap 3, so I don't think these drivers need to make any mega moves at the moment. It's not all won and lost at this stage of the race. Maybe with 3 laps to go, it'll be all won and lost. But I think starting to stabilise at the front as we see the top 3 continue to plough on. Obviously, Bono Huis up into P4, got ahead of Hypers, interestingly. Presenator in 6th. Jim Roy made a good start up 2 positions. Photon down to 8th. Camille up into 9th. Leopard in 10th. Interesting, on those medium tyres, he's been jumped by a hard runner, so that's not good news for his race. And then we have Jan Thaler, Infamous, Matthias, Kruzix, Anker, Brownie, and obviously Gianfranco with that wing damage. And Zed Owens, who got taken out on the first lap. On the bottom 2, Chris and Andernator have both made early pit stops as lap 4 now commences.
Yes, and with the gap at the top only being 4/10, that means that DRS is available for Crow in 2nd place, but he doesn't quite have the speed enough to go and overtake into turn 1, but what about down to turn 4? That is of course where we'll also see moves, because there are 3 DRS zones. And now look at this. Crow with the DRS open just doesn't have enough speed. He gets close, but just not close enough to go for the move. But with 3 DRS zones, I'm sure we'll see an attempt not too long from now, as of course they're coming down to the second DRS detection point of the circuit, which just comes before this downhill left braking, where we've seen drivers lock up quite a bit, as Michael goes just a bit wide on the apex there, but seems to get a good exit nonetheless. But Crow still just doesn't have enough speed to go for the move, but he gets very close there. A couple of centimeters from hitting that rear end of Michael.
Yeah, he's getting close, isn't he? He's having hints of making moves, but to be honest, I get the feeling that he's just happy staying behind Michael, but I think he'll get to a point when he realizes he can go quick, he can pull away, as he completely outbrakes himself into the final corner. So any chance of overtaking Michael down towards turn 1 have now been obliterated. He might actually come under pressure from the other Williams of Speed Bora. He would love to regain that P2 and make it a Williams 1-2 for the eventual race outcome. But yeah, and longer Crow he was originally in hot lap coming out of turn 3, but then dropped all the way down to Mo0, so before he even got onto the brakes. So yeah, it just gives me the impression that he just isn't fancying making moves and battling this early on, because he knows he's got a bunch of drivers waiting in the wings to pounce at any given opportunity that will arise from battling. And because Bahrain is such a track where tyre wear is also an issue, and battling will obviously occur, and that will obviously damage the tyre wear, that is not something I'll obviously be on the driver's mind. The less battling, the more laps these mediums can go, and the more laps the mediums can go, the less laps the hards can go, which obviously will give a better pace advantage come the end of the race. So maybe that's what Crow is thinking at the moment. He'll have a lot of things going through his head at the moment, but at the moment he's in second place, right behind Michael, who's doing a fine job out there, still in first position. We've got a lot of VRS as well. If Crow does decide to make an attack, Michael might have him covered. Let's see, onto the start of lap 6. Michael weaving a bit, just making his attention to where Speed Bari wheel to wheel. Crow must have got a very, very bad exit out of the final corner, and Speed Bari pounces on the Renault's mistake, going wheel to wheel. They make a bit of contact, and look how much time they've lost. I was mentioning the battles, not just impacting tyre wear, but impacting the pace. And look at Bono Huys. He's the man to make amends for others' errors. And he goes down the inside of Longue, but can't make anything move, but he has got past Speed Bari. So Speed Bari's attempt at getting past Crow has ended in him losing a place to Bono Huys. And that is a great move there from the McLaren driver. But look how much time they've lost to Michael, gents. 1.5 seconds. Michael's got a nice buffer at the moment.
Yes, and they haven't just lost time ahead, they're also behind. Look at Hypers. He's already up to the back end of them now, and with Preshnader and Jim following him, so they are all bunched up now with small gaps there. So they're forming one of these infamous DRS trains we're seeing on some of these circuits around the calendar. But I'm sure that if any of these drivers make a mistake, we'll be able to see some overtaking, because this is so close towards the top now.
And Crow. I'm kind of getting mixed up whether to call him Crow or Nicholas. I'll just I'll dabble in between at the moment. This yellow flag sub-rare sector 3. I'm not 100% sure who that is for, but I think they've been cleared now, so all is good there. And as he said, Crow is in a bit of a difficult situation, obviously making that mistake. And look at the effects it's caused. Obviously, he had to battle and somehow survive the attacks of not just Speed Bari, but also Bono Huys. But obviously Bono Huys is someone you do not want right behind you. And Crow might have had this experience in F1 esports as well. So obviously he might have had experience battling with Bono, and he might know a bit of his the McLaren's tactics. But it's been a bit of a long time since esports, and obviously that was back in 2019. We are 3 months into 2020 now, so driving style might have changed for all the drivers really. But as you can see, Michael's still over a second ahead, and I think Crow has managed to regain a bit of a rhythm now, and is slowly starting to reel the Williams in. The gap from 1.5 seconds now down to 1.3 seconds. But one mistake, as we saw, Jens, and he could undo all that good work and, well, plummet down the field as Speedbari unfortunately lost that position, and and if anyone makes a mistake, they will be punished in this tier, won't they?
Yes, all the drivers are just ready to pounce on any mistakes, and with the field so close, you don't want to do what Krusix just did and get yourself a penalty. With the field this close, one penalty can mean that you drop down 5, 6, 7 positions, and races can really be lost and won on penalties. So it's not just the battling on track, it is also if you can keep your race clean and not get any penalties.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say Bahrain is the hardest to avoid or even get penalty. I think it's probably middle ground. There are a few corners where you can cut by accident. I think turn 2 and 3 are great examples, and potentially turn 13 as well. But yeah, I think these drivers know. I think they've practiced this, well, hopefully they've practiced the circuit enough to know the liberties of each and every corner. Obviously, I think at turn 11 you can go onto the curb and get away with it. So if you do see any of that behaviour, then I think that's just part of the racing line at that particular section. But it is turn 13 where Michael has just alleviated now, where I myself usually pick up most of my penalties. But then again, I am nowhere near as good as these drivers, so it's probably bad to compare myself to them in that way. But moving on to lap 9. We should mention the pit window, as there goes Speedbari actually coming into the. Oh no! Oh, Speedbari danced into the. Well, he was darting into the pits and then decided against it, or he was just trying to get out of the dirty air coming from Bono Huis. Who knows? But I think the pit window is around about this time, from around about lap 10 to lap 13 for the mediums. And then pitting onto the hards for the end. So it'll be interesting to see any undercuts performed. I think Michael's probably best bet is just to pit as soon as possible, really, because the undercut can be effective here. We'll see how the next few laps unfold, and we'll see if anyone changes position. I think the best chance of drivers changing position will be in the pit stop, because I think all these drivers have been like a broken record, really, repeating time and time again that at this stage drivers are very happy to just settle into other drivers' DRSs and not really opt for challenging and battling, as tyre wear is the main issue for the drivers to conserve with and try and deal with the best that they can, of which Michael is doing the best job at the moment. I wonder if anyone's going to come into the pit at the end of this lap, Jens.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on it. For Michael, that would of course, as you said, be an option to go early here, as he's coming through the final corner now. He decides not to go in the pits. What about Crow? No. It looks like none of the top guys will go into the pits, and it looks like none of the medium runners that were from the start is going to the pits. So of course waiting a lap as we're seeing some battling down towards 8th place. Camille trying to go around the outside of the Ferrari of Photon, but his teammate Leopard fights back and gets that position off of Camille. So some battling down towards the lower end of the points. This is great to see a three-way battle of drivers going side by side, and now Leopard is trying to get the place off of his teammate. But no, they are playing the team game, and Leopard settles in to be the buffer between Photon and Camille.
Really nice to see a bit of squabbling, because at the front, well, yes, there's a lot of drivers within DRS range, but as he said, it is the DRS train. But yeah, I think one of our goals for this season is probably to cover as many drivers as possible, even the ones who are still squabbling away for the lower paying point positions, or the lower drivers on the actually no, I say mediums, but Camille is on the hards, so he's doing a fantastic job to stay with these two Ferraris. So I'm pretty sure are both on the medium tires. They are. So he's
Michael
the front runner.
Pitts.
Yeah, Michael is now in the pits. Camille, as I mentioned, is now the front runner on the hard tyres, so he might end up being in a lead once all the other drivers come into the pits. Hypers follows in Michael, and Photon also in. So, as we mentioned, Jens, Michael doing the sensible thing, covering the undercuts, no threat of drivers behind him, like Crow or Bono, or even his teammate Subari, form that undercut, and even better, he comes out in a lot of clean air as well. So bonuses over bonuses for Michael now, and it's just his job now to do a very good outlap and to maintain that lead.
Yes, because of what will the other drivers do? Of course, the sensible thing would be to pit in. Of course, Presnader and Bono Huiz has to watch out not to double stack, but let's hope that they are playing a team game and can sort it out, because of course you have to come back with an answer to this, because Michael is quick out there. He came out with a gap with 1.2 or 7.2 seconds up to Brownie and has already brought that down to 6.5. Yes, there is a bit of tyre difference there, but of course it is also the pace that is showing. Now let's see, the top runners are coming round. Nicholas pits, Bono pits, Speedbar pits, Presnader carries on. So the rest of the top runners now going into the pits to cover off what Michael did. But let's see where they will all filter out compared to Michael. Michael now crossing the line to start his 12th lap. Overtakes Leopard, Speedbari, Bono and Nicholas. So he is back into what will be the net first place and has a 1.6 seconds gap down to Nicholas. But there are some yellow flags in sector 1, but they have been cleared. Not quite sure what they were for.
Cruisix? Looks a bit slow.
Possibly. I can't see any wing damage, but it is of course a possibility that he may have come out and had a small spin somewhere. That will maybe forever be a mystery, as Bono has just under a second's gap up to Nicholas. So seeing the gaps here of what is the net leaders, they've been spread out just a tiny bit. Of course, these guys have a 17 to 20 second gap up to the current front runners. So that will, of course, be interesting to see where the hard runners and the medium runners that are now pitting, where they will filter out.
As obviously Presnader and Roy are the last two drivers to make their mandatory pit stop onto the mediums, which gives the lead to Camille. Obviously, in the Red Bull, the two Red Bulls actually doing very well. PCF3 champion is what I was about to say. And then Matthias now in second, Infamous in third, Jan Failer fourth. So all these drivers, for the time being, will be in the spotlight for. Obviously, not for much longer though, because especially the likes of Brownie and Anka, because at the rate Michael is going, he's going to catch them definitely before they come into the pits. I'm not 100% sure on the pit window for the hards, as I've never done a league race here and started on the hards, but I'd imagine it would be around lap 17, somewhere around that region. So they've definitely got a few more laps to go. And I'm assuming they will put on the medium tyres to go to the end of the race, unless they want to stretch all the way to the softs. But that That is a risky strategy and a half. You get to rely on all your hopes and dreams and rely on your tyres actually do make it to a recoverable distance. As, oh dear, Hypers, a 3-second time penalty. I'm pretty sure that's the first 3-second time penalty we have had of the main front runners. Again, let me just double check that. That's obviously including Michael, Crow, Bono, Speedbari, Presnader, Roy, and of course Hypers. And yes, that is correct. So that is going to hurt him in the long haul, considering the fact that barely any of the drivers just mentioned have even got a warning yet, and we're halfway through the race. So Hypers looks like he's struggling a little bit, and he's behind Presnader and Roy when he was. I'm pretty sure he was ahead of both of them before the pit stop. So he's had a bad few laps. Has the Polish driver, and being behind these drivers in the DRS train, meaning that it's very unlikely that he's going to get a chance to overtake. And if this train does continue for the rest of the race, even with the penalties applied, he'll still have no chance of overtaking. So again, yeah, he'll probably still get points, a decent points all, but being the runner-up in last season's championship, I don't think this would have been the scenario he would imagine himself in halfway through the first race of the season. But still, a long way to go. It's not over at all. This race is definitely still in the balance. But the top, well, Michael, Nicholas, and Bono have pulled away quite significantly to Speedbari, and I wonder why. Maybe Speedbari just isn't happy with those hard tires. But Speedbari is right on the tail of the two drivers mentioned. But now he's over 4 seconds behind. I don't think he has any damage. Because if he did, surely the drivers behind him would overtake him. So, yeah, I was something we must have missed. As Preston now sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so he's getting very close to the rear end of that Williams. But, yeah, 4 seconds the gap between the Williams and the other McLaren. I don't know if you picked that up, Jens, or what's the cause of Speedbari being so far behind when at one stage he was right on the gearbox of Bono Huis.
Well, I've just had a quick inspection of his front wing when he was coming down the straight of both the main and the one down to turn 4, and I'm not seeing any damage on his front wing. It looks just as all the other drivers. It may just be that he's not comfortable on these hard tires, and if he is not, it will be a struggle to the end of the race, because this is where he will put in the most laps.
Potentially he got pelled in the pits, but that would also require Presnader, Roy, and Hypers to all be held in the pits as well. Speaking of Hypers, he's now outside of DRS range from Roy, so his pace has really tailed off. I don't think he has any wing damage. I just don't think he's liking this car at the Bahrain circuits and on these hard compounded tyres, and he's really feeling the effects of maybe overheating the tyres. Not obviously, that is a big issue on tracks like this, where tyre wear is definitely the thing you need to be concerned about the most, as two of the drivers, Infamous and Jan Fehler, come into the pits, winning. Michael's now up into P4 in this race, and only 1.5 seconds ahead of Crow and Bono, who's just right behind the Renault. So it looks like it's going to be a three-way scrap for the lead of this Grand Prix regarding any miracles from drivers behind, of which Presnader has now cleared Speedbari. So thankfully for the Slovakian, he can now go chasing after, well, hopefully, for his sake, his teammates, and clear Speedbari quite easily, because I imagine Roy will be next on the chopping list for Speedbari. They're down in 7th, 8th and 9th as we are on lap 16 of 29. Camille leads the Grand Prix for Matthias and Brownie. They three haven't stopped yet. They will probably come in the next lap or two, which will regain a lead to Michael, which is he's held for the entire race. He's done a brilliant job, and he's actually catching up to the other runner of Brownie. I doubt that Brownie is of knowing. Oh, I was going to say maybe he might have tried to held up Michael for a little while to help his teammate, but as I say that, he comes straight into the pit, so that that option has well and truly gone, so Longe is going to have to do it his own way. But he's got Banhus right behind him, so at the moment, level playing field of the top 3, and the other drivers now pressing it up into 4th place. So top battle for first position consisting of 3 drivers, and a battle for fourth position consisting of another 3. This is looking very intense, and it just is very difficult to call what way this Grand Prix goes.
Yes, indeed, and looking at the drivers that started on the hard tyres, it doesn't look like any of them gained any traction on that top part of the field that all started on the mediums. So that reverse strategy hasn't helped out the most, but that doesn't mean that we won't see any exciting races, because as James just mentioned, the gaps are very close here at the front, and it's always exciting to see these drivers. Of course, Bono Huiz in 3rd place has only 4/10 up to Nicholas in 2nd, and then 1.5 second gap up to Michael in 1st, but anything can happen.
Are you going to say your quote?
No.
If you don't know...
and here goes Bono Huiz down the inside of Nicholas. Yeah. Right as we were talking about quotes. There he goes down the inside and gets the place done into turn 1 and 2. Nothing that Crow can do. Will he try to get back at him? He had a thought there, but no. No fighting back. Bono up into 2nd place. And Nicholas down into 3rd.
Speaking of quotes, that was a lick the stamp and send it move from Bono there to get past the Renault driver, and that was a brilliant move, and that's needed, because I think Bono has a better chance of catching Michael than Crow did, to be perfectly honest. I hope so anyway, because unfortunately for Crow, I just don't think he was able to just stay within reach of Michael, but he was never able to, inflict pace that maybe might have concerned Michael. But Bono, we know how quick he is in pretty much every single category he's ever competed in, and obviously he's been very successful in the esports series as well, and I'm pretty sure he's competed in AOR before, but I don't think he's shown any real signs of decent results, but I don't think he was that accustomed to the F1 game back then. I think he was on the F1 2017 game. Obviously, back then he was not very accustomed to the F1 games, but now he is. He's an F1 esports driver. He's competed in a lot of events, so pressure really probably doesn't faze him. But the pressure is on to potentially... I mean, he could easily settle for 2nd place. Like, if that was him, 2nd place in the top tier of AOR BCF1 is a fine result. I'd be gassed with that if I was him, but as a racer, you always want to win, and considering he can see Michael, he can see the prey in his distance. He can see how close he is to that grasp of... He can nearly grasp Michael, the leader of the race, but considering how quick and consistent Michael's been, it's going to take something to topple him. 2 seconds down the gap between the Williams and the McLaren is. But, yeah, as we start the conversation, yeah, it was a great move from Bono. Arguably the move of the day, and it was a crucial move as well. But he has to make one more to win the Grand Prix.
Yes, he has, and that gap up to Michael is now 1.8 seconds. He was closing right after he had gotten past Crow, but that kind of stopped, and then that gap built again. So Bono not looking to have that pace to go up and get Michael, but we can always hope it is just one small mistake and then you're within DRS range. And talking about DRS range, Crow right behind is still within that DRS range, and it is catching Bono a bit. And further back we're seeing battling for 4th place Speed Bari and Preshnader, and right behind them Williams Jim Roy able to take any positions if anyone makes any mistakes, and there down the inside of Preshnader he goes, tries to get the position, but Preshnader defends well and keeps his 5th place for now. But this battle for 4th place will surely go on towards the end, as these 3 drivers are quick and all close together.
Yeah, there's even more battling further behind. This time, Hypers is causing a humongous train full of drivers on the hards and also drivers on the mediums. Look at Infamous. He's on medium tyres. He could have a sniff, potentially. Oh, it's gonna be audacious to think, but 5 seconds to gain on that battle, and considering how hard those guys fought on the last lap, Infamous, if he puts the pace on and he sets those timing sheets alight, you never know. He could maybe have a sniff at that in the battle for 4th position. Thankfully for him, he's cleared an almighty trade consisting of Hypers leading, from Leopard, from Camille, from Matthias, from Photon, and Jan Failer. As who's that darting to the right hand side? That's Camille. He's going wheel to wheel with Leopard, obviously on the medium tyres. Would love to clear him. Here goes Matthias. They're going to go 3 wide down into turn 1. This would get very hairy. Hopefully all of the 3 drivers make it through unscathed. I think they have, and Leopard somehow emerges ahead, but no, Matthias goes off the track there and tries to overtake him, sensibly backs out of that, otherwise that could have easily been an illegal overtake. But now gets a better run through turn 4 and will the inside line, and better traction you'd assume on the medium tyres. Should have him into turn 6 and 7. All great defence from Leopard, but can he hold on? Onto the runoff area goes Matthias. Matthias is giving it absolutely everything, just for a 9th place. This just shows how, how competitive these drivers are. The 1st, 5th, 9th, or even 15th. These drivers are going to give it everything to the checkered flag, and Matthias thankfully gets ahead of Leopard, and Camille follows through as well. So the medium tyre runners, as I mentioned at the start of the race, I thought a few of them could potentially make their way through the field on their 2nd stint. And Infamous is showing great pace at the moment. Matthias and Camille have now cleared Leopard, and the 2 Ferraris aren't looking too great for any points at the moment. They've got Jan Failer right behind. I'll be interested to see if the Haasman can clear both. Would you say the sister cars, because they are Ferraris, and obviously Haas usually do copy them in terms of chassis, and obviously they do borrow their engine, but I'm assuming Jan will have a chance to get them once their hard tyres do eventually give up. But that was a great scrap. Hypers, though, still somehow ahead of all of them. It's just not been a good race for the Polish driver, and I do feel bad for him, to be honest. Maybe just things didn't align as they used to in season 18. I hope that's not the case, because we know how quick he can be. Hopefully this is just a blip for him, and he'll be back on form strong. Because we know he's definitely a contender for the championship, but just today just hasn't been his day. And he has that 3-second time penalty, remember, so he still might not get any points. But I'm unaware of the penalties for the drivers around him, so we'll investigate that once the checkered flag falls in a few laps' time, because we are on lap 22. We're about to start lap 23. And Michael still leads the way, and it's been so close, but the top 3 have just shown some incredible pace, so much so that they're doing stable. Michael did a 29.6, Bono Huis did a 29.7, and Nicholas Longi did a 29.7 as well, so all 3 are pretty much doing identical times, so it's very difficult for any of them to catch up to you. I mean, it's easy for Crow to catch up to Bono, because he has the advantage of the DRS, and he's not just catching, he's going to go for a move, I think. He is fighting back his Renault driver, up the inside he goes, and P2 is his. Bono didn't really put up a resilient fight, probably though, because he can probably get him back in a few laps time, because the DRS is so powerful here. And Crow made full advantage of that, and now retakes 2nd place, but in doing so they lost a bit of time to Michael ahead. Although I'm not sure that's going to really affect him in the long call. There's yellow flag somewhere in sector 1. Is that for Leopard? Yes, he's spun round. He's done a Sebastian Vettel. And a Ferrari, ironically, and a German. Oh, in the 6 car as well. Oh, so close to being a complete identity. But yeah, that's very disappointing. I guess he must have been just caught in contact, bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and round he went. Unfortunately for Leopard, he'll end up pointless in today's race. But yeah, there's a lot of fun had in that, and scrap for the low points paying positions, Jens, as we've actually seen Hypers be overtaken by his fellow compatriot Matthias. So now the racing point, and nearly to Force India, is now up into 8th position with 5 laps to go. What else is going to happen in this Grand Prix, Jens? We've had pretty much everything.
I mean, what could happen is Pressure going down the inside of Speed Bari for 4th place there on the straight with the DRS, and then that's Williams, Jim Roy coming back there. Speed Bari tries to defend, goes to the right, opens the DRS, going side by side into turn 4. Roy on the outside, and Speed Bari defends the inside. It keeps the position there, well defending there. But now they're just letting Pressure to get away with 4th place after getting that move into turn 1. And then Williams, Jim Roy seeing that gap and trying to go for it, but Speed Bari defending well, keeping the damage to a minimum, only losing 1 position. But now he'll have to watch out, because Roy is still very much there, right behind him. But of course Pressure getting a bit away, but Speed Bari has to watch out that he doesn't get too far away, because if he does, he will be a sitting duck in terms of Roy behind. But great defending from him, and great overtake from Pressure.
Yeah, the McLaren's getting involved in a lot of action. One gave pressure, and that pressure eventually resiliated. The other, Bono Huis, is now coming back at Crow. And like I said a few laps ago, the places have switched again. So that battle I don't think is over anytime soon, because these two have just been trading second places like no tomorrow. But the battle for 4th place I think is a bit more interesting, being a 3-way scrap, and obviously being for I say less important position, but every single point is important in this tier. But less points are on offer for P4, so maybe the drivers will give it a bit more and try and pull away, rather than Crow just trying to stick in within Bono's DRS. But yeah, it's like Flap heard our calls, and we like, what else can happen in this race? Oh, I'll just overtake Speed Bari, and Roy will try as well, but I'll get past him, and over to P4 I go. Both McLarens making moves in the last 2 laps, so they're looking strong. It could be a battle, but well, judging off this initial race, obviously they've still got a long way to go, so it's probably not the best assumption to make, but we could have a Williams versus McLaren battle for the Constructors' Championship at least. Take me back to the 90s. That's or the 80s/90s. That is it's the two teams that of recent years in real life F1 obviously have been having struggles. In AOR though, complete polar opposite, and they are looking strong. Obviously Nicholas Longe, the odd filling inside of the Pirate Orange and White and Blue Williams, and obviously Roy doing a stellar job as well. Obviously I think he'll be a bit disappointed with P6 if that happens, because he has driven a great race. Obviously I think he started a bit further down compared to other drivers. Yeah, he started down in P9, so it's made up a bit of ground, and obviously could still get P4, but you have to take 2 drivers in as many laps really, and just hang on to that, because we are vastly approaching the end of the Grand Prix. 26 laps have occurred. We are coming to a close, and it's been a thrilling Grand Prix. I think the driver who's had the least to do, apart from the drivers who obviously got knocked out in the very early stages, is Michael. Yes, you can see. Yeah, I mean, if I was Michael, I would be, I'd probably be looking backwards more than looking forward, to be honest. But he's had a very quiet race. He's just been driving like his life depends on it, and he's been showing incredible form. Form won him the season 16 PS4 championship back on F1 2018, and he looks good to add a race win to his ever-growing tally, really, as he starts the third to last lap with Bonahui second and Nicholas Longue still within that DRS range, but I think, well, he's not close enough just yet to make a move. And then we have the battle for fourth place, which we've had great enjoyment covering. Infamous 7th, Mateus in 8th. I don't think they'll be changing positions. Hyper's 9th. Jan Failer rounding up the points with Photon 11th. Brownie 12th. Anchor making a move on Camille. So Camille, unfortunately, hasn't made those medium tyres work that as good as he's made the hard tyres work. But again, I think he'll work on that. Obviously, being promoted from F3 tier, he'll make that racecraft, he'll develop that. And he's actually going wheel to wheel with Anchor, so he hasn't given up on that fight just yet. So even though these drivers are still not going to get any points, they're still scrapping it out very cleanly and very nicely indeed. Leopard, obviously, after that spin, obviously now down in 15th, and yeah, obviously out the points. With that, Gianfranco in 16th, obviously had that front wing damage, and it's been a lonely race from here on then. Chris in 17th, obviously wiped out at the start, along with Zed Owens and Donator and Kruzix. And we start the penultimate lap of this Bahrain Grand Prix, and well, yeah, aside from Crow potentially getting Bono, I think the battle we'll focus on for the remaining of the race is the battle for P4. So I don't think any of these drivers have any penalties, so it's all to play for the battle for P4. Presnader versus Speed Barry versus Jim Roy. McLaren versus Williams versus Mercedes. Who's going to come out on top, gents?
Well, I don't know. I'm just hoping to see some exciting races from these three drivers. Of course, 2 laps to go, 1.5 laps. It'll be exciting to see if anyone can find a way past. Maybe Speed Barry can get wheel to wheel with Presnader, and then Williams Jim Roy can just get in there with a front wing and cause some havoc with a 3 wide. But let's see, they're coming on to the second DRS straight off the lap. There is a solid half a second gap between all 3 drivers. So let's see, Speed Bar, is he close enough to go for the move? Doesn't look like it, unfortunately. And Roy is a bit too far back as well. Of course, that DRS normally would pull you in, but isn't really in this case due to Speed Bar having it as well. But now let's see. Coming through sector 3 now, coming down towards that final DRS detection point, coming over that now. All getting DRS on each other. Yellow flag sector 2. It looks like it is just for Gianfranco with maybe a small spin, not quite sure.
You got a puncture.
Oh, that is interesting. But let's just keep an eye on Speed Barry. Doesn't have enough speed, but yep, Gianfranco causing yellow flags on the circuit currently with a puncture. Let's hope he doesn't.
Look at this, gents. Sorry to interrupt you, but Michael,
Yeah.
1.4 seconds. The gap between
Ooh.
himself. I don't think it's concerning. Well, the gap is, but I think Michael's in very short. Well, he could easily get a puncture. So I think that's the reason why he's slowed down enough. As there's more yellow flags, I'm assuming that is for the stricken Haasman. But Michael, again, taking this very conservatively. Thankfully for him, it is the final lap of the Grand Prix, so he had enough of a buffer to really conserve these tyres. This lap has been pretty catastrophic for him. Probably the only lap that he's done with fault throughout this entire race and through qualifying as well. Bonahuis came close, Crow came close, but neither could deny Michael from pole to race win. It is Grand Prix winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix, Michael, from flag to flag. Victory for the Williams driver. From like to flag, I should say. Bonahui second, Crow third. Again, these top 3 drivers, fantastic race from all 3 of them. All deserve probably an equal amount of credit. If Bono started on pole, he probably would have been in Michael's situation, and the same with Crow. So that was a great start to the season. Michael was a bit on edge on the final few laps, but got the job done in the end. And yeah, what a stunning race for him, and what a way to start his season in the Williams. Further back, Preston got that P4. So that battle for P4 was incredible. So fair play to him, Speedbari, and Roy for providing also with some great action. Infamous, shout out to him. Unfortunately, just didn't have the legs in those mediums to try and catch up to that battle as a sort. But he did come home in 7th, and that's 6 points in a very good position on making the all-in strategy work. I think Matthias came 8th, Hyper's 9th, and Jan Failer. Oh, I don't know. Maybe Hyper's came further behind. I'm actually not 100% sure on that, but we definitely know the top 3 gens. Michael, Bono, Crow. This, judging off this race, it's just going to be so difficult to calculate who's going to win the champ, who's going to be competitive in the next race. We should mention, by the way, we're not, this calendar, as I said, I said in the intro, but we haven't really covered it. This calendar is quite interesting. This is probably the most wacky, as I mentioned, calendar we've had in AOR history. We start, obviously, Bahrain is quite, we have had it as a opening race, obviously back in 2010, I do believe. But the second round, which of course will take place next week, I'm pretty sure it's Belgium.
I'm looking at the calendar right now. You are right. It is Belgium next week. And yeah, it is a very jumbled calendar. We are jumping all over the place with this, and it'll be very exciting to see what the drivers will be able to do in these conditions.
Yeah, because obviously the drivers are accustomed to each and every track, but maybe we're not in this particular order. So I applaud the work for the coordinator to approve of that that decision to mix up the calendar a bit. Gives a bit of variety into this season, because maybe one of those reasons why drivers didn't sign up for previous seasons was because the calendar is just the same every single time. So obviously the coordinator's doing a great job trying to respond to feedback, and maybe that was one of the things that drivers wanted the most, a jumbled up calendar, and that's exactly what we've got. So Belgium next week, Silverstone the week after, Japan the week after that, Italy, USA, China, Australia, Germany for one final time on the F1 2019 game, and for the foreseeable future, unfortunately, Canada, Austria, and we finish in Brazil. So arguably the 12 best tracks on the F1 2019 calendar. So no complaints from me, because every single one of those tracks, there is opportunity to overtake, an opportunity to have brilliant races. Especially Brazil, gents. We do know what Brazil can offer. Being a season finale, yeah. We could ramble on what happened in last season's Brazil race. If you haven't watched it, please go and watch it. You will not regret it. But thank you everyone for tuning in to the first race of the season. Congrats, of course, to the top 2 drivers and to everyone who participated in this race. And thank you very much, gents, for commentating with me tonight. And well, I guess as a tradition, I'll let you do the outro away, and we'll see you for Belgium next week.
Yes, indeed, and what an amazing race we saw tonight. Great battling all over the field, not just for the top positions, but unfortunately this has to come to an end. But we will see you in just one short week for the Belgium Grand Prix, as already mentioned. And until then, have a good one, and a goodbye.